When it comes to crime, the national nightmare we all share in common is being a victim of the random violence that is such an inescapable part of big city life. But this story is about an innocent woman twice victimized. First by a brutal intruder, then by the inhumanity and incompetence of the very people who were supposed to come to her rescue. I asked that Craig Rivera to look into this infuriating and deadly serious comedy of errors.
When I saw the blood, I just hoped that she had just hurt herself, you know, and that there was some way that I could get an ambulance there and, you know, she would be okay.
Last November, Kyle Merriweather came face to face with an armed robber here in her office in Manhattan's Lower East Side. She was able to activate a silent alarm. The alarm company in turn called 911, and within minutes, the police arrived at her door. But that's as far as they went. The reason? An error was made by the 911 operator, and that error may have cost Kyle Merriweather her life.
They drove by, they didn't say anything, and they drove off. Not thinking that this is a robbery in progress, not thinking that somebody could be dying inside, somebody could be being in the process of being killed inside.
40-year-old Kyle Merriweather loved living in New York.
She had lived in the city for 20 years, graduated with honors from Columbia University for her master's degree, spoke Spanish fluently, was completely bilingual, and used it in her job every day.
She also loved her job as managing supervisor for Avon Products at this branch office in Lower Manhattan. But it was here, last November, that Kyle Merriweather's life came to a brutal end.
Then I looked up here, and I could see it just dripping out of here, like steady dripping sound.
Karen Smith was in her studio directly below the Avon office the day Kyle was murdered.
And I looked down, and there was like a pool of blood in one of my gig bags, which is a case for the guitar.
You knew it was blood?
Yeah, because it was splattered everywhere. It had been.
Smith immediately ran upstairs, where she met two women who said they were waiting for Kyle.
And I got them, and I got the guy from the photo store, and I brought them down here, and I showed them the blood. We immediately called 911.
There's blood dripping downstairs in the basement. It's coming from the store. Can you get this is an emergency? Could you please send the car right away?
Karen then decided to go inside the Avon store to see for herself what had happened to Kyle Merriweather.
And I opened the bathroom door, and she was slumped over the toilet. It didn't look like she was breathing, you know, from the way I looked at her. So I shut the door. We called 911 again.
Could you send an ambulance to 240 East Houston Street? A woman has been shot, and she's bleeding profusely. 240 East Houston Street? Yeah, right away. This is the third time I've called. She's dying. Okay, ma'am, stop screaming in my ear already. I'm sorry, but let me connect you to the ambulance service. Don't hang up. We all want to go one day, all right?
At that point, I just wanted to hang up on her, but, you know, I didn't want to call back again for the fourth time, so, you know, I just sat there while she put me on with the ambulance.
By the time the ambulance arrived, Kyle Merriweather was dead. She had been shot in the back of the head. But even before the police had left the scene, Karen Smith began to suspect that the 911 operators had been more than just rude to her.
I felt like that something bad happened with 911, and
Karen was right. Something bad had happened with 911, and it happened a full hour and a half before her call. Here are the facts. Shortly after noon on the day she was murdered, Kyle Merriweather hit a panic button, which notified a private alarm company that she was in trouble. At 12:26 p.m., the alarm company called 911. Here's part of that call.
Police operator 261, where's your emergency?
Yes, operator, there's a holdup at 24 East Houston Street, New York.
In Brooklyn?
No, this is Manhattan.
Hold on, I have the address. 240 East Houston, crossing Avenue A as in Adam,
Right.
and Norfolk Street.
Yes.
This is a commercial holdup?
Yes.
The name of the company?
Avon Products.
Avon Products?
Yes.
What alarm company are you from?
AMP Central.
Your operator's number?
57.
Your call back?
771-400-718.
6 minutes later, the 911 operator dispatched a police car from the 9th Precinct to the scene. But listen closely to the call. They were given the right address, but the wrong company name.
All right, Adam.
Adam, down at 240 East House and have a hold-up alarm at Eva Productions.
Avon Products had mistakenly become Eva Productions. Police arrived at the right address but could not find Eva Productions. They called back 911 to double-check the name.
Hi, Adam Central. Just find the name of this place.
All I have is Eva Productions.
2 minutes later, there is still confusion about the name.
9 Adam.
Do you have a call back on this shop?
No, it's all alarm company.
Well, there is no Eva Productions at 240 East House in Avon.
You know, I'm not saying everybody will pick a spell. I don't know what this is supposed to be.
We're going to make it a 90X.
Okay, good. Adam, is that Avon spelled E-V-A-N?
No, A, as in Adam, V-O-N.
Okay, forget it. I don't know what they meant to spell, so it's a 90.
All right.
Make it a 90. That means they canceled the call.
Unfounded. That's what 90 means.
Susan Carton is representing Kyle Merriweather's family in a $5 million wrongful death lawsuit they filed against the city.
We're alleging there would have been an opportunity for the police to save this woman's life had they responded properly, had they been given the right information initially at 12:30 when they got this call.
And between the 911 operator and the cop in the field, they couldn't figure out that maybe somebody misspelled the name Avon.
It's pretty close. But more than that, had the cop gone to the door of the premises, he certainly would have seen a decal there that specifically said A&P burglar alarm system, right dead smack in the middle of the door, with a phone number that's the same number that's on the original call left by A&P.
What do you allege the police should have done? What would have been proper procedure?
What they should have done is go to the door and see that there was a number on the door, and they could have called that number. And if they couldn't get in, they should have seen to it that they got into the place. They broke in, or they got somebody to open the door. But they didn't even know if they were in the right place, and they just left.
They should treat each phone call professionally, you know, every single one of them.
A few days after Kyle Merriweather was murdered, Karen Smith filed her own complaint against the 9th Police Precinct with the Civilian Complaint Review Board. Why did you make the complaint?
I made the complaint because I don't want her to die needlessly. I could have died down here, you know. I could get shot, and I would want someone else to do that for me, you know. I mean, I know this is New York City, and people tend to not care, but I do.
A month after Karen filed her complaint, the review board closed its investigation. It did not discover or report the contents of the 911 phone calls. We wanted to speak to someone from the New York Police Department about this and other charges, but we were denied an on-camera interview. We were told, however, that there is an internal affairs investigation into the Merriweather case, and the 911 operators involved have been temporarily reassigned from their telephone answering duties, pending the outcome of this investigation. One last footnote to our report. A month after Kyle Merriweather was murdered, a notice was sent to the Avon office from the 9th Precinct Crime Prevention Officer. It alerted the owner to an unnecessary alarm on November 8th, the day of the murder. It was addressed to Eva N. Products.
They gave him the time to pull the trigger. The cops not getting out of the car and looking or knocking on a window or doing making some type of disturbance, that could have saved Kyle's life. They, in effect, helped the trigger man kill my aunt.
Of all the incredibly idiotic and insensitive comments made that day by emergency personnel, the one that will always stick in my mind is that 911 operator telling that frantic woman to, quote, "Stop screaming in my ear, we're all gonna go one day." Hopefully that operator's gone for good from her job.